And the timing was just too strange, because to feel as if my brother was coming to give me a hug and tell me it's okay minutes before the phone rang to say he had died is bizarre. Today's a different kind of a topic. I'm talking about my brother who died when I was a teenager. Now, there are quite a few reasons why I've decided to talk about this. This is something, I'll be quite honest with you, it's the first time I'll be talking about it and actually properly confronting myself. So it's going to be a little bit of an experiment, really, to see how things turn out. But what triggered me wanting to talk about this situation is a number of things. There have been quite a few tragic shootings in the US recently that have involved children, and the kind of people that were my brother's age. And I know that there are people grieving at the moment and going through a lot of loss. And something that my mother posted on Facebook a while ago is she posted the fact that my brother would have been 35 years old right now, which was a bit of a shock to me to think about it, because, of course, I haven't really been giving it much thought. So I thought I'd start just by giving you guys a little bit of a background. It's, like I said, this is more of a personal video, but the real reason I wanted to make this video is because I find it's very lacking when it comes to resources on how people can really deal with the loss of a loved one out there. I know for me and for many people, when you lose somebody close to you, it's devastating. It really changes your world. But when you go out there, other than some sort of religious stuff where, you know, people can kind of pat you on the back and say, don't worry, you know, your relative's in heaven or whatever, there's not really that much out there for people to really access as far as, you know, materials and things that can help them cope. Let's put it that way. So let's start out, first of all, with a little bit of a background about myself. That's me when I was about 2 years old, over there in the picture. I grew up in South Africa and had a rather different sort of an upbringing, I think, to most people. So let's take a quick look here, go through some of these old pictures. My father's a pretty well-renowned game capturer, snake handler, and that was his thing when I was growing up, is he would go out on these adventures to capture snakes and reptiles and things. So he'd take these trips through Africa, and I believe this over here is in Namibia, which used to be known as Southwest Africa at the time. I'm there in my dad's arms up in that tree. So I was dragged around the country, and well, not the country, dragged around the continent, I should say, when I was young, to different places on my father's wild adventures as he went out catching snakes and doing all these things. He actually has his own YouTube channel. It's called Surviving Africa. Later on, I'll put a link so you guys can check it out if you want to hear some of his crazy stories from his youth. But that's how it kind of started. I was an unexpected child because the doctors had told my parents that my mother wouldn't be able to give birth. But, you know, there I was. So I was a bit of an unexpected child. And for the first couple of years of my life, that was just me going around Africa with my parents and, you know, doing that sort of thing. Just, you know, that whole sort of lifestyle. And, of course, I don't remember that particularly well because I was very young. But I do have some glimpses. Thing is, not that long after, about 2.5, almost 3 years later, my sister came onto the scene. I have blurred out her face because nobody knows I'm making this video. I don't know if she'd be comfortable or not, so just to be on the safe side, I've blurred her out. But there she is with a python around her neck. Like I said, well, there's a reason my channel's called SerpentZA. And the serpent thing comes from the fact that I grew up around snakes. As you can see, you know, there with my young sister with a snake. There I am on the second one, next to the redhead over there. Also with a python around my neck. My birthday parties when I was a young boy were the most fun birthday parties because we used to go to my father's snake park. So my school friends would come and come to my birthday party there, and we'd be able to play with these huge pythons. Obviously, you know, there's someone there to make sure it doesn't kill us or anything like that. But, you know, that was kind of how things were when I was very young. But anyway, like I said, my sister came along, and that was kind of the way things were. I've never particularly gotten on well with my sister, but, we're still on good speaking terms, and, she's a good, very accomplished person in her life. So everything's kind of just carrying on that way. There I am with a tortoise of some kind, I guess, over there. That's me. I always have worn a suit from pretty much right in the beginning. There I am at school, also wearing a suit. That's a public school in Cape Town. It's a boys' school, and it's all the old British system. So, that's when I first learned how to wear a tie and all this stuff, and kind of that stuck with me, obviously. But yeah, I pretty much lived in a suit my whole life. Anyway, it was around about this time that my brother came on the scene. There he is. Now, this is when I was 7 years old, I believe. Yeah. When I was about 7 years old, my brother was born. And again, this was a surprise that he came along. I don't think anyone was expecting it. And he was a really nice little guy, It's there I am with my sister and my brother. But when he was born with a heart condition. And I don't know the exact details, what it's called, but he had a hole in his heart. And it's not something that stops you from having a normal sort of lifestyle in childhood. But, you got to take it easy. He couldn't do any massively strenuous exercise and all of that sort of thing. And the idea was that when he reached a certain age, they could do an operation which would fix that problem, right? And let's see, there's my brother with my mom there. And of course, when you have a younger brother, being the eldest that I was, you feel very responsible for your siblings. You have to look after them. And it's very interesting. Anyone who's had a younger brother will know what it's like. There's a very special sort of a dynamic between siblings, especially if you've got a younger brother. I guess older brother, same. It's just the other way around. But things were absolutely fine. It was a very sort of happy period of my life, very normal, having a younger brother and a younger sister. This is a school photo of me taken on the same day that my brother had a picture taken. I can't remember how old I was there. But, just to give you some background, there we are messing around. I'm the skinny guy in the middle, behind my sister over there anyway, back when I was skinny. In our backyard pool that my dad built. It used to be like a washing up area. This was when we were still living in Cape Town. So, for all intents and purposes, everything was fine. This particular photo was taken just before we moved from Cape Town up to Johannesburg. I'd say that was one of the biggest changes, obviously, of my life was moving to Johannesburg in the beginning. And this we took actually on the way out. We were staying at a hotel or something. And there we go, my brother, my sister, myself, and my mom. And that's another picture of us messing around. I guess I really liked Speedos back in the day. But, that's pretty much it. That's more or less kind of where things came to an end. Was very short, I'd say fairly shortly after this, about 2-3 years after this. Everything was going well, and, I was just in high school. I'd just gotten into high school, I believe, because in South Africa, when you're 13 years old, you get into high school. And my brother was doing well, and everything was good. Totally normal. Like I said, he did have a heart condition, but it never actually affected his life, if that makes sense. It didn't really change who he was, and he had a very spunky and cheeky personality, And we used to kind of roughhouse and run around outside and all the usual sort of stuff. So he was actually okay. For all intents and purposes, if you were to look at him, you wouldn't say there was anything wrong with him. But, the time came where there was a decision to be made that either he gets this operation, which then makes him completely normal for the rest of his life, or, he can kind of continue the way he was, but it would probably deteriorate and it would really be a quality of life issue. So the decision was made, obviously, for him to go ahead with the operation. So I remember quite clearly that he went down to Cape Town to get the operation because the doctor that was going to do the heart operation was a very well-known doctor, and in fact somebody my mother had worked for as a secretary when she was younger. So, you got to get the best of the best for this kind of thing. And they flew down, my mother and my brother flew down by themselves to go get the operation done, and the rest of the family remained up in Johannesburg. And it was a very surreal sort of a time, I'll tell you what, because some things kind of happened. But I'd consider myself a fairly open-minded person, when it comes to, well, life in general. I don't like to discount things. I don't believe in ghosts or anything along those lines. But at the same time, I'm not going to completely say, hey, it's all bullshit and there's nothing to any supernatural stuff or whatever the case. I don't believe in supernatural stuff, but at the same time, I'm not going to completely cut it off as a possibility, if that makes sense to you. So, it was a very weird experience that I've never talked about this before, really. I think I told my parents that's about it, but, there was a very weird feeling that I got while my brother was down in Cape Town getting his operation. It was obviously during the operation, but how do I talk about this? Yeah, just give me a second. So, every time I watch a documentary and someone's talking about something that's like personal and I kind of choke up a bit, I always feel like they're putting it on a bit, but I guess it's not always the case. You got to really calm yourself down. So I was just sitting on my parents' bed. I was sitting at the edge of the bed, and I had this almost like a feeling, almost, I wouldn't call it a vision or anything, but I had this feeling of my brother giving me a hug and telling me that it was okay, And, okay, give me a second. Yeah, anyway, so I had that feeling, and then we got the phone call that he had died. And it was tough. It's tough to process. And still is, really. Yeah. Give me a second. Drink some water. I'll be all right. I'm actually not an emotional type of person, so it's a bit weird. But anyway, it was pretty much, I believe, at that time that I just blocked it all away. And it's first time I'm talking about this. So anyway, I don't know my brother's birthday, and I haven't thought much about him when I can help it. That makes sense. This is the dangers of doing things live. You can't edit this stuff out. Anyway, I wanted to get to the part about how to deal with this kind of thing. Because, to be fair, I feel like I didn't deal with it properly. And the way I dealt with it was by being callous and not dealing with it. So for years, I just wouldn't think about it, talk about it. Our family never really speaks about it. Obviously, it affects everybody very badly. My sister, I was 13 at the time. My brother was 7. So, he was a fully developed individual, and I was like an edgy teenager at the time. And it's just one of those things that's just kind of tough to deal with. And I remember we went to go stay with family sort of immediately after this happened, because my dad had to obviously fly down and deal with things. I went to go stay with an aunt and uncle. And I remember the family kind of trying their best to comfort me and my sister. It was a tough thing to do. It's difficult for a young person to process. And it's just a tough thing all around to deal with loss because, most people can't deal with it. And we're not trained to deal with that kind of thing because, in life, if you crash a car or you break your iPhone or whatever it is, it sucks, you lose something, but there's always that possibility of repairing it or buying a new one, getting it back. But when it comes to a loved one that goes away, it's probably the biggest wake-up call you can ever have in your life to teach you that, some things, when they're gone, they're gone. And there's not a damn thing you can do to bring them back, or to fix it. And that's probably the hardest thing for people to deal with because there's no recourse. And, like I said, people take comfort in religion. Give me a second. And I guess it's comforting if you believe in that stuff. And it's nice to think that your loved one is, floating around with a harp in heaven or something with your grandparents and that kind of nonsense. But, that's not something I particularly put much stake into. So if you don't have that comfort to fall back on, there's very little else for you to really fall back on and hold on to. Other than memories, really. But the memories are painful, so you're kind of left in a situation where there's not a hell of a lot you can do. And you know how people say tragedies like this, it really changes you. I don't think change is the correct word. I think damage is a better word. I think it really damages you. And so I've been incredibly callous when it's come to death around me since then. When my grandparents died, all of my grandparents are dead. It was no big deal for me. It was just like, well, it's their time, Didn't choke me up at all. I've had some friends in South Africa die. Only one of their deaths really affected me as one of my childhood friends I grew up with, and she was murdered in a very brutal way, and that got to me. But other than that, I've been, like I said, very callous, and I think it has been the wrong approach, and I wouldn't suggest that approach, to be honest, because I think it's important to keep the spirit of people alive, in your life. Whether it be through, conversation or memories, that kind of thing. Because that's all you got. At the end of the day, we don't have anything really other than the experiences and the memories that we have with people. And when you look at the bigger picture, that's pretty much where we stand with everything. One day we'll just be a memory to somebody. And I think it's only fair for people to keep those memories alive. And so that's pretty much my story. And like I said, I wanted to talk about this because I've never talked about it. And I didn't really know what to expect by talking about it. I thought it'd be very straightforward. I could just be factual. But yeah, you know what? Guess I did get a little emotional, which is weird. But for those of you who are interested, my brother's name was Miles. Not quite sure why, but that was his name, Miles. I remember me and my best friend making a joke when he was just about to be born, that my parents would have to force him to run miles and miles because that was his name. Yeah. Anyway, let's wade through this a little bit together here, guys. I'd like to answer your questions, and please listen. This is not supposed to be a sob story, okay? This is not supposed to be I wasn't supposed to get emotional. I honestly wanted to talk about this from a rational point of view and share my experiences to hopefully help other people who are going through or have gone through, and hopefully your experiences can help me too. So if you've got any questions, please go ahead and ask. Here. Trix Red says, best memory you had of you and your brother together. It's an interesting one. I remember I was swinging him around, by his arms. I know my parents didn't want me to do that because, he's not supposed to get too excited. But I was swinging him around, and I remember there was like this old rose bush, and I swung him and, miscalculated a bit and hit the rose bush, and a massive big stick of thorns broke off in his leg. And it didn't really hurt, luckily. It probably hurt a bit, but I remember we both really cracked up over that. It's kind of fun. Yep. I suppose, the reason he actually died was the operation went bad. I should have probably put that in there, but it didn't work out. And so in the end, it was pretty much the doctors ended up killing him. I got to tell you something. I know my parents didn't sue the doctors or because they were friends, and there was none of that involved. It was just accepted. It was just the way it went. I think it was a unforeseen complication, something like that ended up. But I tell you one thing. I have been so anti going to the hospital. It's kind of strange considering I used to train doctors in China, but I'm so against going to the hospital, so against taking medicine, and so against going under the knife since then. It's because of this whole situation. It really shook my trust in the medical system. But yeah, that's what happened. Let's see. Mitsuki Hashiba said, how did the loss affect you in your development? Well, like I said, it definitely affected me emotionally from the point of view that I didn't view death like most people do after that. So when there was a death, I didn't treat it as anything other than just a normal occurrence. Living in South Africa, you do get to see a lot of death. And you do become very sort of callous towards it. It's got an incredibly high crime rate, and I've seen people that shot dead on the side of the road. I've seen lots of terrible crimes happen in front of me. I've seen a lot of death in South Africa, so I guess that compounded everything. But, when I was still very young and innocent at the age of 13, we just moved up from Cape Town, because it's a different story. Cape Town is a very... well, at least then, still now, in certain areas anyway, still seen as a very safe place in South Africa. And Johannesburg was always known as kind of the gritty crime part of South Africa, especially downtown Johannesburg. So, I was fairly innocent. And so losing my brother like that was a tough thing. And it did change me emotionally. So as far as my development's concerned, yeah, it definitely did. DW67 said, do you think your brother's spirit went to comfort you when his body died? I mean, that's a tough one. And that's why I said I don't believe, I'd love to believe it exists, supernatural stuff, like ghosts and, fortune telling and all that kind of nonsense. But I'm a very practical thinking person, and I believe in science, and I kind of don't believe in that sort of thing. But having experienced that, whether it was truly a vision, of just a feeling, maybe myself trying to comfort myself, I don't know what it was, but I did experience something. And the timing was just too strange, because to feel as if my brother was coming to give me a hug and tell me it's okay, minutes before the phone rang to say he had died, is bizarre, It's not something that I can fully explain. At least I've never really thought about it too hard. So it's entirely possible. I'm not going to discount that. Brutaclus says, my girlfriend, fiance of 13 years, killed herself in front of me. Oh, that's awful, mate. I can't get rid of the guilt or pain, but I want to ask, how did you deal with something traumatic and move past it? Yeah. Well, the way I did deal with it, and it did kind of work and it still does to this day, was to block it out. That's how I dealt with it. There's probably been 3 times in my life where I've maybe had a bit too much to drink, and I've indulged my thoughts and self-pity and kind of gotten swallowed up by it for a short period of time, like an hour or 2. But other than that, it's more like when my brother ever comes up for any reason, I just think about him as the way he was, really. And now that I've got a daughter of my own who's, now she's almost 3 and she's talking and walking and she's got a personality, it kind of does bring back a lot of memories of having a brother of that age, even though it's my daughter. And it also shows me and reminds me just how terrible and tragic it is to lose a child, whether it's your brother, your sister, or if it's indeed your own child. It's like the most traumatic thing that can really happen to a person, I believe, because it's such a life-changing event to have children in the first place. So to lose them is bloody awful, and it's unnatural. You know what I mean? Obviously not unnatural. It used to happen throughout history, especially back in the day when we were all living in the woods and stuff. But I'm just saying, in the modern day, people are not equipped to deal with it. Like I said, I didn't expect it to go this way. I literally put this little pack together of the photos so I could tell you guys a bit of history, and I thought we'd just talk about it and just get it out there and things will be all right. It's interesting how there's certain emotions that just cannot be overcome, no matter how much you think you can. Okay, so Sinan Atundal says, did you feel like you had to continue or keep something your brother did or had started, like some sort of project for him, for example? It's a good question. It's a strange thing. In the beginning, I kind of wanted to hold on to some of his toys, I remember, kind of just for sentimental value. But at the end, I asked, that they could go to his best friend, his young best friend. Because, that, again, if you have something right there, something physical to remind you, it's painful. And the way I dealt with it was to not, have anything around. You know what I mean? Let's take a look. We've got Sheminsky says over here, my friend is 28 and lost his younger sister at 14. He turned out a lot like you. He actually got me onto your videos. Okay. What brought you around to facing these emotions? Well, like I said, this is the first time, to be honest, that I've actually faced it, other than like I said, those few times where I may have been a bit drunk and kind of indulged my self-pity a little bit. And the reason why I'm talking about this and facing this is I understand that there are a lot of people right now who are facing this exact same thing, especially here in the USA, with these crazy mass shootings that have been going on recently, which is a huge issue. And I just hope that some sanity prevails, and they can be brought to a stop. Because as much as I absolutely love America, and as much as I agree with the Second Amendment in America, there are certain limits. Just like everyone can drive a car here, you have to first pass a license and get tested. I feel the same should be with guns. Like in South Africa, we I carried a gun in South Africa since I was 16. I've been a gun carrying, whatever you call us, person. And in order to get your gun license in South Africa, when I was 18, you have to get cleared by the police, and you have to go through a training course with an instructor and all that other crap. And then you get your gun license. And it's a process, it takes a long time, takes months, and you finally get your gun. But then you have it, and you've passed certain checks. And I think a huge majority of people that currently own guns in America would fail those tests, because they test you for all sorts of things, not only accuracy and trigger discipline and safety and all that kind of thing, but they see if someone's a crazy person. They'll see if there's some red flags. I mean, if the guy's trying to do all sorts of weird stuff, they'll stop him and they won't allow him to have it. So I do believe that the Second Amendment should be upheld here in America, but at the same time, I think there needs to be a proper licensing procedure. Like when you get a car license, you don't just let anyone hop behind a wheel and drive, because they've got a background of not crashing in the past because they never owned a car type thing. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's get off that subject. That's another topic for another day. Karutik says, all of the experience you shared with a person remain. They are as real as they ever were. Processing grief is critical for our well-being. Acceptance is the key. Yeah, this is healthy. You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, like I said, what are we other than a bunch of experiences, really? That's what makes me different from the person next door to me is the experiences I've had. Obviously, personality and all that sort of thing, and skills and things. But in general, it's all about experiences, right? iStrong says, it's good for you to make this live stream. You can't block emotions of grief forever. One day you got to let it out. Hopefully this will make you feel better going forwards. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it might. I mean, it's a weird situation. My YouTube audience, you guys are really, you're like my family. You are like my family. I make videos for you guys every week. The most interaction I have with people in this world is through this camera. It's with you guys. You guys very much are a family to me, and I guess for me, it's the right place for me to talk about this, because hopefully it helps someone. Whether it helps them as a cautionary tale on how to deal with things, or at least helps them think of how to deal with their situation if it's similar. I'm very hopeful for that, but I'm also very happy to be able to talk to you guys. It does helps me to be able to bring it up. Thank you so much, by the way. Anna Sands, did your health decline after his death? Mine sure did, after my dad died. Yeah, you know what? I got really fat. You can see from the pictures in the past, that wasn't me. I didn't grow up a fat person. That's me on the far side over there. I was skinny and fairly active when I was young. And after my brother died, I gained a lot of weight. And I became the sort of fat kid in high school, and I was bullied for it, I remember. I shook that all off when I hit around about 17, I guess. But my high school years were brutal, It was tough. It was a tough time. But definitely my health declined. It's interesting how that happens. Red Hat says, why not travel back to South Africa? Because I hate the country. It's nothing but shitty memories for me. Yeah, that's why. I don't want to go back to South Africa and put up with the shit that I used to put up with and what people are putting up with now. It's terrible there. The power goes off every day now. They've got something called load shedding. And my parents, I'll be talking to them on the phone or something, and they'll say, sorry, we got to go. We're going to have load shedding in a half an hour. And what that means is the power gets turned off in your area for a number of hours. Could be 2 hours, could be 5 hours, could be a day. It doesn't matter depending on the situation. So when you can't even have the power on in your house reliably, and there's massive amounts of crime and murder and rape and everything else that goes on in South Africa, it's not the place I want to be. And it's definitely not a place I would like to subject my family to, given the choice. And I understand so many people don't have that choice. So many of my fellow South Africans who just couldn't get out or don't have the means to get out have to deal with this awful situation. And it's heartbreaking for everybody in South Africa. Everyone's affected. Doesn't matter, middle income, rich, poor, it doesn't matter. Everybody's kind of dealing with a tough life over there. And so, given the chance, I would not like to go back, ever. And I'm going to try for the rest of my life to never go back to South Africa. Izzy R says, is there a certain food that you avoid to avoid the memories of coming back? My dad loved barbecue, so whenever I have it, I have to fight the feelings. Not food, but there are certain movies. The last thing I ever did with my brother, and it was probably a week before he died, is I went to go and see The Lion King with him. It had just come out. And it was the only memory I can remember where it was just him and me. So my parents dropped us off at the mall, and I had to look after him and take him to see a movie. So we went to see The Lion King. So, for the longest time, I couldn't watch that movie. I'm over it now. Like, I watched it with my daughter the other day, and it wasn't bad, but I just couldn't handle watching The Lion King, believe it or not, for the longest time. Think about it, says, some of us have had the experience of realizing that our spirits continue. You will have to personally feel this on your own, as no one can convince you. Yeah, I agree, mate. And like I said, I'm always very open-minded. You never know. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. I believe that's a saying. Louise P. says, your brother will always be with you in your heart, and no one can take that away. Your love for him, yep, and happier memories. Thank you. Thank you, Louise P. And that is true. The experiences and the memories are there. They can't go away. Person goes away, they stay. But like I said, they can be painful. Vandal says, I forgot to include this question in my last super chat. What do you think caused you to change and confront your grief like this? Like I said, I think the main thing is the main thing that caused me to do this was the sort of crazy mass shootings that have been going on in America, and just realizing the age of the children that were involved in that Uvalde, I think is how you pronounce it, that school shooting and stuff. And it made me realize, because they're all kind of my brother's age, just that there are people now going through the same thing that I went through, which is, the senseless loss. I always thought it was senseless because the fact is the operation was optional, It was the doctors convincing my parents that, it would give him a better quality of life if he went through the operation. But he was fine, and he was having a totally fine quality of life. Whether it would have degraded or not, I don't know. But, it's just senseless. And look, I've lost friends to murder as well. So, I know what it feels like when somebody's killed, murdered. And it's the same thing. It's just awful. It's to deal with that kind of loss. So that's the main reason I decided to talk about it. And then it was really just sparked off again by, I'm guessing it was recently my brother's birthday, and that's why my mother posted on Facebook that he would have been 35 years old, which is strange because, my brother is, and it's even weirder for me to think, but my brother would have been the same age as C-Milk, and we work together, we're best of friends, and it's just it's so weird thing to think that, my brother would have been the same. Anyway, thank you, Dennis Stafford. He says, may be helpful for recent shooting victims' families. Thanks. I hope so. There's nothing that can truly help a person at this time. But you do find some comfort knowing that other people have experienced the same thing. And you can at least have a conversation about it. And I guess that's why you have all these support groups for like recovering drug addicts and stuff like that, because I wouldn't know what it's like to be a recovering drug addict. I wouldn't know what it's like to be a drug addict. And so I guess they're going through something that the majority of people don't go through, and they need people to talk to who are going through a similar thing. And I guess it's the same, but it's a lot more, it seems like it's more taboo to really talk about death in our culture. It's just not something that really gets enough airtime. It's not something that people really get to talk about, because all you ever do is, whenever death comes up, the only thing you ever hear about is religious stuff, whether it's in the movies or, through whichever channels. When people die, they just immediately go to religion. There's no real other outlet for people that aren't religious, And even if you're religious, it doesn't help, So what? Like, oh, great. So now my relatives floating around in heaven, it doesn't change the fact that they're not here anymore, K Booty says, dealing with the death of a loved one when you're an atheist is hard. I deal with it being angry and sad, but mostly angry. Yeah, you see, it's tough not to be angry. It's tough not to find a person to be angry with. Like, you can be angry with the doctor, you can be angry with the crazy shooter or whoever it is that's caused the death, or even just nature. If your friend died of COVID, or died of if your family member died of some natural causes. But, does that really help at the end of the day? You can pinpoint your anger and it can distract you from the fact that your loved one's no longer there. But that's all it does. It just distracts. It doesn't change the fact that you have to deal with this loss. And that's really the core of it all, is dealing with the loss of that person who's, so close to you. It's a tough one. Joshua King, you never really get over losing a loved one or a friend. You must learn to move forward and accept who you are in their absence. Yeah, and that's correct. I also don't think it's good to overindulge your grief. And I might have been a bit too extreme in blocking it out, but I do know people who linger so much on the loss of a loved one that they tend to bring everyone else around them down, and they tend to just stay on it too much. And I think you shouldn't go overboard in indulging it, especially not in front of strangers and acquaintances. It was very frustrating. I knew someone like that who would find any acquaintance or anyone that they knew to seek pity from them because they'd lost their mother, and that's also the wrong approach. Anthony Saints, the pain is usually when you lose someone, but time will heal, but never cures the problem. And that's a good way of putting it. Like I said, it never really goes away, but yeah, you can get over it, sort of. I Love Cats 123 says, I've been watching your channel for years, Winston, and I also know how it is to lose a family member at a young age. I hope you keep well, man. Thank you. Christopher Ellis says, South Africa is the same as Australia for guns. I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about Australian gun laws, and I didn't really know guns were a big thing over there. But I do really think that there has to be a little bit of reform here. Because the kind of people that end up being these shooters, look at the 4th of July parade guy who shot. Look at the pictures of him. Who in their right mind would say, sure, here you go, I'll sell you an AR-15. I mean, just to look at the guy makes you think that you should probably check his background and make sure he's not a psycho, There need to be better checks and balances, and I really think this whole idea of actually passing a proper test, kind of like getting a driver's license, is what you need to be doing here in the States. Evan Hirdirk says, Hi Winston, I went to your CNC premiere in LA and ran into that Russian-Chinese lady in your documentary by accident. We talked on WeChat. Respect for talking about this topic. I lost someone important to me when I was young. That's cool, man. That's a small world. Jay Leo says, has your sister dealt with this similar to you? I can't really speak on her behalf. I know that she definitely would bring it up more, and it was more. She didn't shy away from it as much as I did, but that's about it, really. I did once try to talk to her about it, but she didn't want to talk about it. Cambodia 69. Do you feel that the coping mechanisms you've developed from the loss of your little brother had a negative impact on your relationship with others? That's a tough one. I wouldn't say in general, not really. No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, the way I coped with death, I've been pretty insensitive to family members, when their parents or grandparents or, other relatives that are related to me have died and they're all grief-stricken, I'm usually very callous about it. And probably haven't said the right things a few times, When people are kind of grieving, you like kind of get over it, It's just that's what's going to happen. It's probably not what people want to hear, So yeah, I suppose in a way. Damon Langle, thanks for doing this. You have to deal with it eventually, and by sharing it with us, you've honored your brother, and now we will remember him too. I appreciate that so much. Let's see if there's anything else here. I think that's probably about it. There's no point in really lingering on this. I just wanted to share this story, and like I said, I really hope that this helps somebody out there, and it's certainly helped me talking about it. So for that, I want to say a big thank you to everybody. I just wanted to say to you all again, thank you very, very much for being a part of everything I do. If it wasn't for your support, in all honesty, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today. I'm eternally grateful for what you as an audience have done for me. And whether that is support me financially or just watch my videos, I feel the same amount of gratitude. You guys are fantastic. You have helped me go through one hell of an adventure, and still do continue to help me go through a hell of an adventure, because things keep going. New things keep happening. I keep finding there's just so much more to get out of life. But I've really kind of gone from a rather young and immature sort of a person here on YouTube messing around in China on motorcycles and getting drunk all the time and doing stupid things, to being able to really explore the whole of China on motorcycles and share that with you and make documentaries. And you've all been a part of that. Whether you've just joined now or not, you're still a part of it. It's a hell of a thing that you guys have all done for me, and I appreciate it very much. And so does my family. Appreciate it very much. And I just honestly want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you who've come to watch me and indulge me talking about my brother. And I do feel a hell of a lot better, I'll tell you that much, having spoken about it, because it's been on my mind for about 2 months now. I've been wanting to make this video, and I've been thinking about scripting it and sitting down and filming it, and every time I get around to trying to do that, I just don't know what to say. And the only way this honestly could have been done is through a live stream. And to have you all here kind of as witnesses helped me a lot. It's the only way, is just to wing it. So thank you very much, guys. I will be seeing you next week on this channel. It will be a normal video again. And I will be seeing you on the China show, formerly known as ADV Podcasts, on Friday. And through whichever other various thing that I'm doing with Sea Milk. So I can't wait to see you next time, guys. And, until then, you know the drill, as always. Stay awesome, and hey, if you got a brother or a sister, go give him a hug. Send him a text message, something like that. Because you never know. My brother and I used to play Sonic 2. And he would always play the Fox, and I'd always play Sonic. Obviously, he was young, and I was the bigger brother. And it just so happens that, the Fox in Sonic 2's name is Miles.